Hello, and welcome to another one of our mini series episodes where we are exploring what success really means and why we have to sometimes change what that version of success looks like. So, today I am super excited. I am joined by Emma Last, who is an informed leadership consultant. Emma, hello, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait to talk all about success and probably sustainable success when it comes to me and my work. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. That word sustainable is so important, isn't it? So important. So before we dive in, just tell us what it is you do now.
so I work with leaders. I help them to become more informed leaders. I work at the intersect of leadership, mental health, and performance, and I help them to be sustainably successful. Oh, I can't speak. Sustainably successful. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't
It is.
it?
I picked a great topic, didn't I? An absolutely great topic. A great topic. Okay, amazing. So let's go back a little bit. So, what did younger you believe that success would look like for you?
Okay. So very, very independent, ambitious, came from an entrepreneurial family, and it was very much about I don't actually want to be an entrepreneur. Yes, okay, my family have had varying success, amazing success, and also, things that weren't a success. Um, but it was like, I don't want to do that. I want more of a traditional pathway. I am going to go down that. So success to me looked academic. It looked like progression through a corporate structure. It was actually getting me as a woman sat at those higher tables so that I could make change. That was what success looked like to me from being really young, from being a teenager, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. And what happened? Did you build that? Were you sitting at those tables?
Okay, yeah, so yeah, I worked my way up to being a senior leader in a big corporate. Um, yeah, I was there for 19 years. I had 13 different jobs in 19 years, collected a plethora of skills along the way. And for a lot of it, really, really enjoyed my work. But it was success looked like the job title, the status, the company car, um, the material things that went with the job. It was enjoyment of my job was always, but also wrapped around that was the conditioning that to be successful, you have to work very hard. And
Yeah,
I don't just mean very hard, I mean you have to be a superwoman to be successful.
yeah.
As a woman, to get to sit at those tables that you want to sit at. Um, and and almost like laser focused on that ambition really as a woman.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I
so
think we see that a lot, don't we? Where there's this assumption that we have as a young person, a young girl, a young boy, a young person, we have this belief that success comes with status, with things and stuff that I always talk about. So, when you've
yeah,
got the big house, you've got the car, you've got the job title, you've got the business making the multi six, seven figures. That is success. That is when we have made it. And when I speak to people who have been there and got themselves to the point that they really want to get themselves to, which for you obviously was being on those tables with
yeah.
that title, it doesn't always feel like you expected to feel. Did you experience that? That it didn't quite feel what you expected?
For a long time it did feel what I expected it to feel, but there was always a bit of a conflict because being a mum of three children and juggling that and trying to be the career woman and also the one that was nurturing and loving, within a family and wanting having all of the things um was a challenge. It was difficult, and that balance sometimes was heartbreaking because you had to make choices that I couldn't be where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Um, But in terms of towards the end, we in the final year, the in 2017 there was a restructure at the company that I was at, and I ended up with a promotion out of that restructure. I usually did if we had a restructure. I came out of it well because I made sure that I did because I worked so hard and my results spoke for themselves. But at the end of the day, I was then sat around that table and thinking, is this what it is? And that was a real kind of turning moment. It was actually a day when our MD was actually at a flip chart and was talking about people and passion. And I just thought the thing that came across me was like, if you don't know what that is by now and how to do that, I am sat at the wrong table.
Okay, okay. So what did you go on and do?
So yeah, I left. I didn't know what I was gonna do, but I just knew that I thought I would go and get another job in the same similar industry. But I it was all very it just I didn't feel myself at the time.
Hmm.
And I think what when we talk about identity and success, that's a really, really interesting conversation. I think when I started to detach from what that success was and that I didn't want that anymore, it was like, well, who was I?
Yeah.
And that was like a massive thing because it was like, well, um, okay, what do I go on and do? Who am I? Do I even know who I am anymore? If I don't have the job, do I know who I am?
Yeah. So the job effectively became your identity. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge part of it because if I'm really honest, I didn't have that much time to be me because I was at work
Yeah.
or I was with my kids. And we were running around juggling life's logistics that is of having three sporty kids, and ultimately but yeah, and it wasn't really until I stopped that I realized at that point that I actually was not very well. And I had burnout. And I didn't want to reach out for help because I thought, well, at the end of the day, if I actually go and get help, then they'll know that like I don't cope with stress very well. Well, that's what I was telling myself at that point.
Yeah.
And therefore I won't be able to get another job again. And I want to be a senior leader again. Also, I thought.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think a lot of us do that, don't we? We have this fear of if I admit that I'm struggling, then I'm a failure and I've got no chance of ever getting myself back into the place that I think I want to be again. And that's a difficult conversation to have with yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, it is definitely. So, I mean, there were parts that year was 2018 was an awful year. Um, I'm very mentally strong, I would say, as a person. I'm very resilient, but it really tested me a lot. And I learned so much about mental health and well-being. And that's really has been my mission over the last, well, 8 years nearly, has been to try and educate people leaders on in all of those aspects because the more informed we are about ourselves, so the relationship, the self-leadership that we have, how regulated we can be and how we lead, but also the relationships that we build with others, um all of that, once we've got those things nailed, then we can be really confident in our own leadership authority. And that's a massive part of the work that I do really is all around that. But it starts with your mental health, and that understanding what your capacity is. I never ever I just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going.
Yeah, which so many people do. So when you started to do this, you came out of the corporate and you started to do this for yourself and start to educate people to become, I suppose, better leaders, isn't it? To become
Yeah. Yeah.
a leader with the right intention, the right mindset, and all of that type of
Yeah.
stuff. What did success look like for you at that point? Because it's quite different, isn't it? Going from I'm going to be, I'm going to be an MD, I'm going to be CEO, I'm going to sat at that leader's table to I'm going to be doing this on my own. What did success become to you at that point? Was it still driven by being at the
It's
top of your game, or did it change?
yes. Although I worked out why I was more achievement orientated,
Uh-huh.
because I'd used it historically, I'd used it as a distraction mechanism
Yeah.
for things that were, oh, if I'm really busy, then I don't kind of have to deal with that thing that's hard.
Yeah.
So I would it's like, so and I do have to watch myself sometimes for that now. It's like, I love my work. I am so, it feeds my brain. I'm very lucky in that I've got a very, very creative brain. Some might say more neurodiverse brain. And although not diagnosed, there's definitely some synergies with that. But yeah, this need to learn to and to keep myself like stimulated really is a massive it's a big part of my character in
Yeah.
reality. And when I look at my dad and he's that's been my dad's been an entrepreneur all his life, and he's done so many different things, and his brain is fascinating how it works because he can do the technical thing, but he can connect with the people, and sometimes that's not it's quite a hard thing to find in people, isn't it, for
Yeah.
people to be able to understand all of those things. So
Yeah.
yeah. So, I've people will say, "Oh, well, what are you a niche? What's your niche? What's your specialism in? What are you an expert in?" And I always go, "Well, I'm, pretty much an expert in mental health, pretty much an expert in leadership, but not wholeheartedly going, well, I'm an expert in this." And then I have conversation with my like coaches and often they'll say to me, well, the reason you can't do it is because you are an expert in all of those things, Emma, because that is my brain. I've got that kind of brain where I am literally a sponge, and people don't necessarily know, like, until they're working with me, they go, oh my God, how did you know that? Like, your knowledge is like phenomenal. And it is. And that's what a big part of my work now and helping leaders to become more informed is sharing that knowledge with them. So it's like taking the best bits of these last 25, 30 years of leading people and teams and businesses and everything, and just trying to share that with other people to make their lives easier. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
success is it's I've had to really think about, so it's been the things like, number one best-selling books, being part of book collabs, so things, there's always been bits of achievement that have
Uh-huh.
milestones I've had to kind of have along the way, but also a big part of realigning that achievement has been um creating some security for my family in a different way, but also the children needed me more as they went into high school. They're now all at college and uni, but it normally you would think, well, be around more in primary school, but actually mine seemed to need it more as they went into secondary.
I think a
So
lot say the same, don't they? I think a lot say the
yeah,
same. There's more running around and things, I think, to do, isn't it, as they get
but I
older?
think emotionally as well,
Yeah.
I think emotionally there was more complexity of what they needed, and actually me being around at home, working from home, having that time with them, as was a very, very different dynamic.
Yeah.
um because there were times when I would go away and they'd be like, oh, you're not away again. My daughter used, when she was little, would cry when I was going away, and then she wouldn't speak to me for a day when I got back. that sort of, emotional torture. I mean, she still does that to me now when she's 19, but okay.
Like I say, sometimes it doesn't get easier when they get older, does it? Sometimes it
Yeah.
doesn't get easier. So I think listening to what you've just said, I think the difference between the old version of success and the version of success that you moved into was understanding that why that sat behind it. So you said that you understood why you wanted to do the things, a lot more. So I absolutely love that for you, that you got to that point. So over the last 12 months, you've had to relook at your business, haven't you?
Yeah.
Um, how has that been for you?
Um, Hard, I would say. Um, so well, it's probably yeah, it's probably more like 8 months seriously looking at
Uh-huh.
it. I would say I've known for 2 years there was something not quite right, but it wasn't until probably the mid towards the end of last year that things were like, actually, this is going to change how you operate. And my husband had a diagnosis in January with Parkinson's disease.
Yeah.
So at the age of 53.
Yeah.
So he's been diagnosed with idios something Parkinson's.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So we don't know the cause of it, but also at the age of 53, he's had symptoms for 2 years. It's just the NHS is so slow in doing things that,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
so it could be early onset Parkinson's. We're not 100% sure, but that's yeah, what is being diagnosed now. So that how we live and how we operate has got to change as a family. We've always been, it's always been very equal in terms of like, well, if he was accelerating his career, I would like slow down for a couple of years so he
Yeah.
could do that. And we've always worked like that. It's never been like, you know, me man, I bring I
Yeah.
bring money.
Yep.
It's I've always been very ambitious. He knew that from the moment that we got together. So it has always been, there's not men and women's roles in this house.
Uh-huh.
It's more like
They're
we just
combined. Yeah.
it's a combined effort.
Yeah.
Um, but it has meant that we really need to change what we're doing. So he is currently has changed his job role, but with the same organization. It does mean that we need to think about, the roles that he played in the house as well. He did a lot of the cooking. Apparently, I'm rubbish. I mean, I can cook some
So you
things, but
so basically you need a chef.
well, he is my in-house chef. He always has been. But obviously I'm gonna have to, learn that. But I mean, I can cook. It's just that apparently I'm not good enough. So it's fine. I say to them, you can't be good at everything, can you? So it's fine. So the kids can cook. It's not a problem. Um, so I've had to really think about what I do. So a lot of the work that I do is like I love to, there's always an in-person element with the work that I do. I know we talk about online things and online courses and things, but that sort of learning, if there's not an interaction for me and the way that my brain works, and a lot of my clients, they just find it very like boring. They need
Yeah.
an element. So, and also with all of my programs that I've run over the last few years, whether that be with schools, school leaders, or workplace leaders, or leaders in business,
Yeah.
it's always there's always been this live element. Because it might be that you go away and you do some learning, or you learn, go through some recordings, but there's always like the coaching element part of it. There's always that live part. So that's had to be something that I've really thought about, because I do like people to have a bit, I'd be able to have a bit of me when they're working with me. That's like, have a bit of the magic in reality. That
Yeah.
sounds really myself, doesn't it? But I don't
Not
mean
at
it.
all, no.
Um, but yeah, so I've had to really think about it and how can I get my message out in a different way? And also, how can I build a business so he's still working for, who he's worked for many, many years. But what happens if he can't?
Yeah, future proofing. Yeah,
Yeah. And so therefore, what I'm designing now is something where he is potentially going to be able to step into a role within that if he needs to.
yeah,
And also, the bigger picture, it's not just about me. And it might get to a point where this business needs to be run by other people, not just me. It has to be that my magic has been put into other things. And so, I'm using AI a lot to help me with that, um, to get my knowledge into AI so that it can be shared effectively within, like within my programs and things. And
yeah.
so that people also have that instant access. So they've got 24/7 access to me, but it's not quite me, but it's
It's your knowledge and stuff that's been
yeah,
fed into that.
yeah.
So do you think success has changed for you on the back of the diagnosis, or do you think how you're going to get it has changed?
Oh, that's a good question, isn't it? Um, I think both have.
Uh-huh.
So what we thought success looked like to us would be security, um, holidays,
Yeah.
that sort of thing,
Yeah.
I would suppose, and starting to maybe work less in a few years or,
Yeah.
that sort of success and spending more time together as the children get older.
Yeah.
It's almost put a speed on that. It's almost put more pressure on it because it's like we don't know for how long he's going to be able to do that. His walking is affected already.
Yeah.
So, um, it's not like we can go and play a game of tennis anymore or anything like that. But hopefully he might build some strength back up and we're looking at different things and things like that. But so that's got to look different. So I'm realigning my week. I want to only work 4 days a week. I'm probably going to work longer days on the 4 days that I'm working, but that's, because I've got to work hard to get this new part of my business
Yeah.
going because it's really important to me. Um, and don't be, when you're growing a business, whether you want to be at the top of the tree in corporate or you want to grow your own business, people say, okay, well, let's make it so that, it's like evergreen or it's this or it's that or the other. Brilliant if you can do that, but it also takes hard work as well.
Absolutely.
You
100%.
can't
Yeah.
just, you can't, but what the difference is that I've got the understanding and the understanding about my own capacity now,
Yeah.
whereas historically I didn't. And that's a big gap I see in leaders, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We've got redefining like what success looks like to, and it almost bringing it forward, but also how I'm going to get that is different because it can't be all delivered through me. And it's probably got to be a point at a pushed in, so it like in the back of my mind, perhaps I was thinking 15 years time I might sell my business. Yeah. And I've probably just got to think about I've got to make my business saleable if anything happens to me at any point
Yeah.
because they can't, unfortunately, my husband's not in a position to pull that out of the bag anymore, is he? In
Yeah.
reality, that's not, we've got to think about his care in the long term, but also, if something happened to me, how do I provide security for my family, really? Is that, and would they want to either work in the business or would they want to then sell the business on. And that doesn't mean to say that I don't love this business any more or less than I did before. Um, I actually think that little extra bit of different pressure is actually making me think about it differently and more seriously. And in a case of this is going to happen and I'm going to make it happen. But obviously, I've got the tools in my kit bag to know to what extremes I'll go, if
Yeah,
that makes
yeah,
sense.
absolutely. And I think that's an important thing to talk about, isn't it? That, things do get thrown at people's lives, don't they? We get all sorts of things thrown in away, whether it's illness, whether it's loss, whether it is, financial problems that happen within businesses. There's lots of things that get thrown at us that we don't envisage, we don't expect. And when that happens, it's natural that we're going to have to change what we do moving forward, doesn't it? And,
Yeah,
it's quite a journey, isn't it? Because you are obviously a very driven, ambitious person, whether that's been in your corporate career or in your business, and you want to be at the top of your game, and you don't have to stop doing that. You just have to do it differently, don't you? You have to find a
yeah,
different path to make that happen,
yeah,
and suddenly things that you would never have thought about, not at this stage of life anyway. You
yeah,
don't think
yeah,
about things like, well, what happens if something happens to me? We don't
yeah,
tend to think about that, do we?
yeah,
Because it never becomes, well, we don't ever think it's going to happen. I think that's the reality, isn't it? I
yeah,
don't think we
yeah,
ever think, if somebody had said to you 5 years ago, in 5 years' time, you're going to be faced with this,
yeah,
you probably would have done things differently 5 years ago, but you
yeah, I
wouldn't have
would. Yeah.
believed them. You wouldn't have,
No,
it wouldn't have
no,
felt real. It
no.
wouldn't have felt like that was going to be what happens. So what would you say before we wrap up? What would you say to anybody else when it comes to thinking about what success means to them based on your experiences? There's been a couple of times there where you've had to change or you've chosen to
Yeah,
change. What
yeah.
would you say to people before we wrap up?
Okay. So, one of the biggest things is that I end up saying a lot of the time, and this actually did come from one of my coaches, is that what we often think about with success and identity, we think about when I am successful, I will be like this. Because when I've got that success, it will mean that I can then do this. I can be like this. I can act like this. I will be like this. I'll be this person, that I want to be. But that's just, it's bobbins. The more I think about it, it's absolute bobbins. We all, so many people think in that way, but really, the ones of us who have got to that point have got there and thought, half the time we've got there and thought, oh, I'm here, but who am I? Because
Yeah.
we've lost ourselves on the way. So ultimately, it's like, what is the identity that you want to step into? What is the identity of this success of this person? What does it really mean to you? And be that person, be that person that you want to be. A very wise man back in 2000, and I think it was 2010, 2011, Dutch guy, used to mentor me in one of the roles that I was in corporate. And I said to him, why are they not promoting me? I am better than them. Why are they not promoting me? Because you're doing that, Emma. But I was like, why are they just not seeing? Because I've literally reorganized this whole business.
Yeah.
What's going on? When are they going to promote me? When am I going to get this directorship? And he went, shut me up quick. Act at the level that you want to be, and it will happen. So whether you believe in woo when you're manifesting, or whether you're focusing on what that identity is just really think it's like visioning, isn't it? It's just really think about what does like success or even what does prosperity mean to you? Because prosperity for me is like it's a different and actually step into that like feeling of like sovereignty, whatever is your word. That's my one of my words of the year, sovereignty.
Great
Um,
word.
Yeah, it's just really think about that, like that identity that, that what do you really want it to be? And just don't wait for the success. Just feel it, yeah. Want it, feel it, be it.
Love that. Absolutely love that. And I think, we are, as human beings, somehow naturally pulled to assuming success is determined by a place, a milestone, a thing, something that we've got shiny that we can say, oh, I've got this now. But it quite often isn't the case, is it? As I think we've discovered in our conversation today. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences with me, Emma. It has been lovely chatting to you. And yeah, everything that you want to, if you want to contact or connect with Emma, I'm going to share all of her links in the show notes for you anyway. But yeah, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, I've loved it.
No problem. And I'll be back with another mini episode about success really soon.